I was down the pub the other day and someone asked me what the cure to the housing crisis in Australia is. And when people ask me, there is a certain implication that I'm part of the problem because I'm old and my wife and I own a few properties. Well, I will give you my answer to that question. It is a dual crisis. It is a dollar crisis and a productivity crisis. We'll talk about the dollar crisis first. Now, inflation is a fact of life. It has been there since the time of the Romans, probably before. And the one metric that we forget is the ability of people to buy these properties. It's all very well to bleat about the price of things going up. How can we push the price down? You can't push the price down. It doesn't work. We all have to be in the tent. Now, when my uncle in 1952 bought a house in South Australia in Morfordville on a tailor's wage, this metric remained. A third of your income is there to pay debt. So in 1952, a tailor could buy a house on a subdivision in South Australia for a third of his wage. Now, I would suggest to you that now that is impossible. It's nearly impossible for a man who is a tailor, a gyprocker for instance, or some other similar trade, and his wife who is working at whatever pursuit she works at, that the pair of them will be battling to pay for the debt on a house with a third of their wage. Now, government has been elected by all of us to bring the economy along. When Hobbes said that life was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish and short, if you look into his writings, he meant when he said that without government, life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish and short. The capitalist system is not there. It has no morals. A company is there to maximise profit for its shareholders, which it will do with ruthless efficiency. The one governor on private enterprise, on business, is our government, who represents every one of us in the community. And they've forgotten this. For the last 20 years, perhaps 30 years, we've had governments that have convinced everyone that, that they don't have to be part of the union, that the system will look after you. And so wages, especially for the people that are 1 or 1.5 standard deviations from the mean, that their wages have remained static. They have not been able to keep up with allowing 1/3 of their wages to pay for their debt, which is the ability to buy a property. And socially, this is a bad thing. We need stable, happy communities that can contribute to social life, that don't have to live under bridges. We have a fantastic healthcare system in Australia that is there to look after all of us when we have bad times. It is the role of government to make sure that private enterprise pay. Now, if you're a government employee, government is not doing a bad job at the moment of allowing your wages to come up, and hopefully it will drag the people out there in private enterprise land along with it. But if you're a young person, I would urge you to become a part of politics and tell your politicians what you require. The housing crisis you won't unwind this in 2 years. You can't just change 30 years of malpractice by government, but we can recognise it and say this is what we're going to do. We're going to look after, especially these people here. These people, the wealthy people, they'll get on all right. They're pretty good. They know how to run a spreadsheet. They know how to look for the loopholes. Government is there to manage things. Private enterprise is there to lawfully produce goods and services and amenity for the community. Without government, we would still be producing cheap tobacco products, be digging up asbestos and producing it and selling DDT. That is what government is for. The tax system is to incentivise the things we want and discourage the things we don't want. At the moment in Australia, there is a 30% tax rebate for producing films in Australia. Why don't we give a similar tax rebate for people who produce small houses for low-income families? I'm sure that private enterprise would be only too enthusiastic to investigate those sort of things. You know, we complain about people with massive superannuation funds. Why not encourage, rather than taxing them and being punitive with our tax laws, why not encourage them to invest in areas that have better returns, such as housing in Australia? There is another thing. There are people who will always rent for various reasons. They're more social people, they're more creative people, and that's fine. I'm happy to have those people in our community. They are part of what we do. They're my sisters, uncles, aunties, etc. However, we need people to provide houses for them. And over the years, over the last 30 years of investing in real estate, my wife and I have owned numerous rental properties, and I managed the tenants. And it has been very gratifying to provide houses for people who needed them at crisis points in their lives. So the tax system, negative gearing, the only thing wrong with negative gearing is its name, but it incentivises wealthy people to provide housing for poor people. Now, this is not the government doing it, this is private enterprise doing it. I would suggest that there's not enough housing for low-income people with the existing incentives by government. Why not give them more incentives? Double negative gearing. Wealthy people will rush across there, provide the housing, and blow me down, you'd be surprised. In 5 or 10 years' time, they will make a profit and they will pay tax. Hallelujah. And they will look for the next government incentive to spend their money in Australia and provide jobs for Australians. Do you know that 24% of Australian superannuation funds are invested in American companies? Do you think that is a wise use of Australian investment? I would rather that money spent out here on housing, renewable energy projects, schools, roads, anything except American shares. Thank you very much. So then we get to productivity. Now, everyone's been criticised in Australia for our productivity rates going down. Oh yes, it's all your fault. You people on at the face, you know, you're not doing as much. Well, we've got to realise that this great weight of bureaucratic control that we carry along behind us, it gives us benefit. You know, bushfire attack levels make sure that people don't die in their houses when they catch a light. Better building standards make sure that our buildings require less maintenance in 5, 10, 20, 30 years' time, but we don't recognise that in our productivity. You know, a tiler today takes much longer to tile a bathroom because he is required, as best practice, to put the waterproofing in properly. Tiles don't matter. Anyone can lay tiles. It's what's underneath the tiles that you can't see. When, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, project home builders just put tiles on bare concrete floors and walls, and it took years before they leaked. So those are the sort of things we have got offsetting benefits. But the real productivity weight is from government controls to give us benefit in other areas, I'll grant you that, but government controls. It is the heads of departments. Leadership is required from the state government down to local government and through the heads of the departments to tell their staff. They'll do it. They're just employees. They will do these things if you tell them, but if you don't tell them, they won't. So, bushfire attack levels, for instance. I live within 150 metres of the main street of a major regional city, and I have to put in a bushfire attack level if I am going to do any development. Now, this is crazy. The local government could easily get 6 experts in a room, and then within a month they could break the whole of the region up into 3 or 4 attack zones, bushfire attack zones. And when I go to do a development, they say, right, Edwin, you're here, there's the way you have to build your building. And only in the most intense areas where thought and negotiation because of the location is required, should it be done. So there are a number of things that need to be. I accept that the housing crisis will be fixed in 2 ways. First of all, it's a dollar position. You must reverse slowly the effects of the last 30 years of the people with lower wages to use 1/3 of their income to pay for a house. And then we have a productivity aspect to it. Government must make the land awash with housing blocks. In the regional city that I live in, we need 100 blocks a year. We could do 200 blocks at the moment and 100 blocks a year further on. We're lucky to get 30. This is government's issue. Government need to do the things they keep saying they're going to do. No, just say it. We're sick of being told what needs to be done. Bloody well do it. If you have too many blocks, it doesn't matter. If government own too many blocks, I don't care, because they will be used up. They just slow down in the future. But make sure there's blocks available for people to build houses on. I noticed the New South Wales government has released a housing primer. They have got, I think it's 100 housing designs that if you put this house on that block, it's been already approved because it conforms to the building bylaws and the planning code. You know, these are the sort of things that government can do to increase efficiency, rather than every single designer and architect having to redo the same things over and over again. You know, this is crazy stuff. So there's many ways that bureaucratic productivity not can be improved, must be improved.